A person familiar with the case who has not to be identified tells Bloomberg that JPMorgan has agreed to sanctions that include a fine of about $400 million. What's your reaction to the reported size of the fine?
Well, Mark, I mean, unfortunately for a bank the size of JPMorgan Chase, which is on track to do something like $25 or $26 billion in net income this year, a $400 or $500 million fine is really just a slap on the wrist, frankly. It's frankly more embarrassing for JPMorgan, another public relations nightmare, rather than something that's going to affect their bottom line.
Bill, separate regulatory and court filings have revealed that FERC's been investigating a JPMorgan trading unit's market activities for more than a year. If FERC's been building a case for that long, what might that imply for the scope of the alleged manipulative energy bidding?
Well, you know, again, until we see exactly what FERC is alleging in any complaints, often what happens in these things, Mark, is that they settle them, and then there's a document that's released that gives us an outline of what it is that the bank is settling for and about. So until we really see that, it's going to be hard to know for sure. But, you know, they wouldn't be settling it so quickly if they didn't feel like FERC had developed a very good case, despite their statements publicly that they've denied any wrongdoing. I mean, this could be another example, like with Goldman Sachs, and to segue into Fabrice Touré with the Abacus deal, where they settled it for $550 million to make it go away.
Bill, last week on Capitol Hill there was a congressional hearing. It looked into whether banks are using their ownership of raw materials to manipulate markets. Are they?
You know, this is a very gray area, Mark. I'm sort of reluctant to pile on to a lot of the media reporting that's occurred until you know the details of this. I mean, private equity firms have businesses that are involved in all sorts of raw material acquisitions, and you could claim that they're manipulating them, you know, anytime they buy a raw material and mark it up and sell it to a consumer. So I'm not sure necessarily Goldman Sachs is doing anything worse than Coca-Cola is by marking up sugary brown water to the rest of us at a big markup.
Bill, let's switch to SAC Capital. The hedge fund said it expected to agree with the government on a protective order that would, quote, permit SAC to continue its operations in the ordinary course. But how can that happen if the government's seeking the forfeiture of what it calls any and all of SAC's assets?
This is not good. This is not good for SAC, Mark. I mean, the Preet Bharara, the U.S. Attorney's complaint filed last week is quite a narrative. It's devastating, frankly, in its detail and its argument. Again, they're innocent until proven guilty, but I wouldn't want to be them now. You know, so many of their limited partners have taken money out of their funds, basically down to Stephen A. Cohen's own money at this point. It's going to be very difficult for him to retain individuals to work there, and you know, what really does he have left to do? I mean, this is a devastating blow for that firm.
Bill, is it time for more transparency from hedge funds? Does the public need to know more about how they operate?
Well, you know, again, they were required, they've been required now for a year or two to be more transparent about their holdings. Unfortunately, they don't hold reveal that information. They reveal that information, whatever it is, quarterly when they make their filings. I mean, whether we know, for instance, what Stephen A. Cohen, SAC Capital actually invests in is less important to me than that they're not designed to be a shop that trades on inside information, which is what, of course, Preet Bharara is alleging. Hedge funds serve a very valuable role, but we don't want them cheating on the rest of us.
Bill, you mentioned the Goldman Sachs case, Fabrice Touré. 2 weeks ago, you wrote a Bloomberg View column. You criticized the SEC Chairman Mary Jo White's prosecution. You wrote, White is trying to make Touré the poster child for the financial crisis of 2008. This could not be further from the truth. Why do you believe the SEC's prosecution is, again, in your words, gratuitous?
Because, Mark, you know, when all is said and done, I spent 17 years on Wall Street. I was a vice president myself for a long time. Let me assure you that vice presidents like Fabrice Touré do not do anything anything at all without their bosses knowing about them, without their bosses' approval, without the firm's approval. So to single out this poor, vice president who was just trying to put this deal together as sort of the symbol of all that was wrong leading up to the financial crisis is beyond ridiculous.